Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. So we talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Russ Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. We've got a Sonic blockbuster in the ACC on ESPN with the top 10 ranked North Carolina Tar Heels traveling on the road to face the Virginia Cavaliers. Both teams are toward the top of the ACC standings. North Carolina is actually tied with the Duke Blue Devils at 12-3 in the league, so this will be a huge win for North Carolina to try to be able to stay atop the ACC standings, whereas Virginia, they're 2 games back at 11-5 in conference play, and Virginia kind of needs a really good win for their NCAA tournament resume because their resume is a lot weaker than North Carolina's, even though their records are very similar. I'm going to preview and predict whether I believe North Carolina can go on the road and knock off Virginia, or whether Virginia will be able to knock off the North Carolina Tar Heels on their own floor. Now, North Carolina is the more talented basketball team here than the Virginia Cavaliers. That's why North Carolina is being given a 65% chance to win this game. North Carolina is a pretty good offensive team. They're averaging 83 points per game on offense. The transfer portal additions that Hubert Davis has brought into the Tar Heels this year has really helped complement the North Carolina offense, and it's taken the load off of RJ Davis and Armando Bacot. But North Carolina is giving up 71 points per game on defense. North Carolina's defense was doing better earlier in the season. Lately, their defense has been playing poor, and that is why North Carolina has been slipping up a little bit lately, and they have struggled a bit in their last few games. Virginia, however, only scores 64 points per game on offense, and they give up 58 points per game on defense. We know that Tont Bennett has a style of always having his teams playing slow on offense, but on defense, they grind out games. They make it tough for you to score quickly, and that's why North Carolina has had a tough time against Virginia in the last decade, especially in Charlottesville, even if North Carolina has been the better basketball team. Virginia's style is very unique in college basketball, and in a lot of seasons, it works for Tont Bennett, and I would say it even has worked this season overall, but they still have some limitations because when their offense plays too poorly, Virginia just cannot win games. And in their last game against the Virginia Tech Hokies, Virginia only put up 41 points on offense in that game. It was one of the ugliest performances I have seen this season by a college basketball team. And against Wake Forest, Virginia beat them on their own floor 49-47 because their defense was able to somehow shut down the Demon Deacons enough to be able to get a win without cracking 50 points. That's actually unbelievable. But Virginia's going to have to do a better job on offense in this game if they want to have any shot of beating the Tar Heels. They've only scored 100 points in their last 2 games. That is pathetic. And Virginia, they also lost to Pittsburgh recently, even though they did score more points in that game. And then when you look at Carolina, they just knocked off Virginia Tech 96-81. North Carolina, like I said, hasn't been perfect lately. They have lost at Syracuse. They lost to Clemson at home. They do have wins over Duke and at Miami. But ever since Carolina lost at Georgia Tech, and then they were able to beat Duke after that, North Carolina has not looked the same, especially on defense. That's going to have to change if North Carolina still wants to have a shot of winning the ACC and of winning this game, because even though Virginia's offense is terrible, North Carolina has been giving up a lot of points on defense recently, so maybe that could help even Virginia find a way to score. RJ Davis and Armando Bacot are the leaders for North Carolina. Since Caleb Love decided to transfer out, it's made RJ Davis a much better basketball player because he's now the main focal point of the offense. He's got the ball in his hands the majority of the time. He's shooting well from 3. He shoots well at the line. One of the best guards in college basketball this season. Bacot putting up great stats, averaging a double-double. Harrison Ingram, though, the Stanford transfer, averaging 13 points and 9 boards. Cormac Ryan averaging 11 points per game. Elliot Cadeau is improving. He's averaging 8 points per game. Hubert Davis has been playing him much more lately, but he definitely still has room to grow, especially on defense. And then North Carolina's bench, even though it has dropped off lately, guys like Jalen Withers, Jalen Washington, and Seth Trimble are not contributing as much as they were earlier in the season. North Carolina's bench is still better overall than it was last season. North Carolina is a very good free throw shooting team at 75%. They shoot 36% from 3, and they do a fairly good job of not turning the basketball over. But North Carolina does only average 14 assists per game. That number should be a little bit higher, especially when you have a high-level guard like RJ Davis. But I think it's because RJ Davis is such a shot-heavy player that probably prevents North North Carolina's assists from being much higher. And then when you look at Virginia, this is such an offensively challenged team. Virginia's leading scorer this year is Reece Beekman at 14 points per game. He's a good player, and he's also been a good facilitator as well, averaging 6 assists per game. He's had to step up in that department with the departure of Kihei Clark, but I think that's also hurt Reece Beekman's ability of possibly being a bigger scorer than he is because he's having to facilitate so much to the rest of the roster, and the rest of the roster just don't score that much. Isaac McNeely, he's a good player, averaging 12 points per game, but then after that, nobody averages more than 9 points per game, and Virginia is a very good defensive team. That is the only reason they win games, because if this Virginia team was not one of the best defensive teams in college basketball, Virginia would be one of the worst teams in the ACC. Their defense keeps them alive and has allowed Tont Bennett to have a team that has been toward the top of the ACC standings this season, but that's also why Virginia doesn't really have a signature win, because you cannot win in college basketball in 2024 when your offense stinks this badly. You have to be able to score at least 70 points per game if you are going to be one of the best teams in the sport. Virginia, ironically, shoots the ball well from three when they take threes. They shoot 37%, but this team only shoots 64% at the foul line, which is absolutely terrible. Virginia's going to have to shoot a better percentage from the free throw line if they're going to have any shot of beating North Carolina. Virginia was 1 of 11 at the free throw line in the Wake Forest game, but they still somehow found a way to win. Virginia only averages 8 turnovers per game, so they take care of the ball very well, and they average 15 assists per game. So the one thing you can't say about Tont Bennett's team is they are very well disciplined and well coached. They just struggle to put the ball in the hoop. North Carolina is a 2 seed right now in the bracket, whereas Virginia is currently a 9 seed. Like I said, Virginia's resume is a lot weaker than North Carolina's, and that is why they are so low in the NCAA tournament bracket, despite having such a great record. But who do I think is going to win this Sonic blockbuster game in the ACC? North Carolina is a very talented team that is struggling a bit right now. Hubert Davis's team, if they're going to have any shot of going far in the NCAA tournament, they have to clamp up on the defensive end. And that's why North Carolina wasn't all that good last year, is because their defense was letting them down. And for Virginia, it is the exact opposite problem. Their offense is abysmal. Their defense is really good. If Virginia's defense can slow down North Carolina like they do so often, then I do believe Virginia can win this game. And another reason why I think Virginia can win this game is that North Carolina has not won at the Virginia Cavaliers since the 2011-2012 season. That is absolutely unbelievable that North Carolina has not been able to win in Charlottesville in over a decade. And that North Carolina team that did win at Virginia had Tyler Zeller, John Henson, Kendall Marshall, Harrison Barnes, Reggie Bullock, and James Michael McAdoo. What a blast from the past that is. That was a really good team North Carolina had. They lost in the Elite Eight to the Kansas Jayhawks, but ever since that team, even the 2017 National Championship team for the North Carolina Tar Heels could not win at the Virginia Cavaliers. So Roy Williams always had issues playing at Tont Bennett-led Virginia teams. And this year's team is going to have to find a way to be able to break the mold of all those other North Carolina teams that could not win in Charlottesville. Sometimes one team can just be your kryptonite. No matter how good of a team you are, you just cannot get a win at a certain place. And I think Virginia's style of play definitely plays a factor. North Carolina just does not do a very good job playing with teams that play slow. It just bothers North Carolina. It makes their offense play horrible. And even though Virginia's offense is really bad, North Carolina's defense has been struggling a little bit lately, which could help Virginia's offense out a little bit. You know, the home crowd for the Cavaliers is going to be loud, especially when you got a top team coming to town like the North Carolina Tar Heels. I can't believe I'm doing this because I really do believe North Carolina is a far superior team to Virginia this season. I'm actually going to predict Virginia to knock off the North Carolina Tar Heels 62-60. I think that the Virginia curse is going to happen again for North Carolina. They're just going to find a way to lose again at Virginia. This Virginia team is a terrible offensive team, but their defense is going to keep this a low-scoring game. And I do believe if North Carolina can't get in the mid-60s, they're not going to be able to get the job done and get this win. I think North Carolina is a much better team this season. I like the players Hubert Davis has on this roster, but I do believe that they are going to find a way to lose at Virginia again this season, and this win will definitely help Virginia stay in the ACC title race and give them a signature win that would drastically help out their NCAA tournament resume. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, whether you think that North Carolina Carolina can go on the road and beat the Virginia Cavaliers for the first time in Charlottesville since the 2011-2012 season, or whether you believe that Virginia will continue to dominate North Carolina at home, and despite Virginia's offensive woes, they will be able to find a way to beat the North Carolina Tar Heels. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I'll see you next time.